Today on the Ginger Engine we read and review book number 6 of the Railway series, Henry the Green Engine, published on the 10th of July 1951. However, will our non-Thomas fan give this book a yay or a nay? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome aboard the Ginger Engine. Before we depart, we need to check your tickets. How do we do that? By hitting that big old subscribe button and ringing the bell to be notified about our latest videos. We'll always be sure to keep trains running on schedule. Joining me today is the driver, which is myself, Andrew Durning, our fireman,
Thomas Lawrence,
and our very important passenger,
Susan Sutton.
Unfortunately, our railway inspector Matthew Hill was not able to make it today. That was mainly because I messed up with the dates. Hopefully he'll be back for the next one.
It's a lie, the trains were on strike.
Yeah, no, that was the last book. Well, you may notice that the aesthetics is very different today. We are in Bad Pony Media offices, so we thought let's just get the guy himself to come on, a very special guest, good friend of mine, and also fellow steam engine enthusiast Frank McGowan.
Hello everybody.
Frank, how are you getting on there?
Not too bad. I'm really excited to be here because I'm a total fanboy for the show and I'm actually on it. Dreams do come true.
See?
They are.
And someone's actually had a dream about me. That's weird.
You don't want to know the details. You don't want to know the details.
Well, before we do jump in, Frank, so what got you into Thomas?
Do you know,
not that Thomas, this Thomas.
If he wants to be intimate, then that's all good.
This Thomas, because this Thomas is going to be, along with our cast here, we have 3 members of a project we're working on. We're doing an alien film, nothing to do with trains, but aliens, so 3 here, which is cool.
Yeah, very awesome.
These guys are good to work with, that's why I'm back for more. Began my train journey with Thomas in particular. I still remember the first day that I saw it on CITV. So I think it was around maybe 87, 88, because I was very, very young. I was only about 5 or 6. And I remember seeing one of the episodes. It was actually the one with Duck.
Duck Takes Charge.
Duck Takes Charge. And I remember after seeing that on TV that weekend, my mum took me to Springburn Shopping Centre. It was a big day out when you went to Springburn Shopping Centre. Obviously, you know, that was back in the days, the glory days when they had R.S. McCall's and you could go in and you could see all the Thomas books and cassette tapes and stuff like that. And I got the Duck Takes Charge book and cassette tape, and I've still got it to this day. It's in a picture frame, so I've got a VCD picture frame.
Is it the one that Ringo Starr narrated?
Yes. So it's the purple book. I'm pretty sure it is purple. Duck Takes Charge, and I think it was 2 stories in it. Now that I'm thinking, but it one close shave.
Yeah, so then they used to do 2.
Yeah. So it was a close shave and Duck Takes Charge. I think the ones that were in the book, and. You know, it just more than the episode itself, I read the book a lot more, so I'd read on with Ringo Starr under the colours with me. No, that sounds terrible. I'm not making accusations about the wonderful Ringo Starr. We discussed this earlier as well. I wrote a book report for school back in the day about how me and Michelangelo basically got snuggly under the covers to read Thomas. And my teacher was like, who's this Michael, this adult Michael that comes under the covers with you at night, young man? And I was like, no, he's imaginary, he's in my head. And I went, you've got a lot more problems. Because I actually wrote fan mail back in the day as well. I remember this. I wrote fan mail to Brit. I never got a response though. But what I do have is I wrote to the Fat Controller in the Thomas magazine, and I've still got this as well. I got the wee hand-signed postcard from the Island of Soda with the wee map on it and stuff.
Awesome.
So I actually got that from the magazine, and I've still got the magazine that's got my clipping in it. I can send you across and you can put it in the kind of titles on screen, stuff like that. But it was like, dear Frank, thank you for writing to the Fat Controller. We're very, very busy with the trains in the Island of Soda, but the trains were fascinated with your letter, and we can't wait to see you next time at the station. We'll give you a poop. And I was like, yeah.
Well, we've just went into human centipede territory.
But it was, to me, that was just awesome because that was my first taste of an interactive kind of TV show experience. I'm saying interactive, this is back in the 80s, the social media, but having a cartoon character or someone you looked up to, like, you know, the Fat Controller, who was a very important person, you know, very busy, he was an entrepreneur. I was like, I want to be like him one day. So having that kind of early influence, I thought, write to him, get the letter back, it was, to me, that was great, and I wrote back again, and then I sent in a drawing. Actually, it's a shame I took them out of my book here. At the back, I had all my original drawings that I'd done in pencil from when I was like 11 that I'd sent to the island of Sodor, because obviously back in those days my dad had access to photocopiers, so I photocopied to keep them, because obviously you send off things to a magazine.
Show the camera what the book is, because all the Thomas fans will be raging at this one.
Yes, this is Thomas the Tank Engine Stories Classic. It's actually, as I found out researching it online, they actually mimicked the cover of this book to look like the popular classic adventures stories from back in the early 80s. That was the books that you got with. You got the mini book, which is a hardback, and you also got a magazine that explained the book.
Wow.
And told you all about it. So it mimicked that, because that was quite a profitable series at the time. And on the back we've got the Island of Sodor, which I used to stare at. Like, oh, so that's where that happened, and in that episode when that happened with Percy, that's up here, or that's where Gordon was, and it was great, and I'm surprised the book's in such good condition considering the amount of times that I took it under the covers with Michelangelo's number something. The two great narrators there, like obviously the sounds of my childhood, and I loved the little bell sound when you would turn the page of the books as well. So when I got this book in my head, before I turned the page, I used to go ding ding. Whatever the sound was for each
because the middle labor ones will be like when you hear Thomas whistle, turn the page.
And it was just such nostalgia and fun, and it inspired me creatively as well, because I used to write a lot of fan fiction, as it would be called now, Thomas stories, and I actually still have them written, handwritten. There's like nearly 500 pages of them all stapled together that I still have. I need to send you them to see what you think. I probably will.
If you want them adapted, Frank, send them over to me so I can put some in Reborn or whatever.
That's a great idea. My stories were quite, let's just say, controversial, because I actually had a Ringo character. There was a train called Ringo who actually came in, and I had a train called Michael, so again, you were part of it. And I had a Reverend train, that had the little white Reverend thing on the front, and that was the Reverend. So this is the way that I kind of included the characters into it. Then obviously when Frank became part of the series, I was like, representation right here. Nothing like me, but his name's Frank.
Well, there's a lot of changes in this episode. One of them is all the collection of engines that are at the front. Because I finally got a massive collection of Airtoll Thomas trains from the 90s. Sure enough, these will be my kids' inheritance.
Because you spent the inheritance on these?
Transference.
I'm pretty sure that, I did sleep on the couch for about 3 nights after Alison found out.
It was so worth it.
It was. I regret nothing. I really don't. We've also got some of Thomas's ones as well, from Thomas and the Magic Railroad as part of the display. Frank has got his Frank.
Yep, I've got my Frank.
He now has his Frank. And Susan will give you a wee special Thomas to start off your collection as well.
You did, yes. A nice little metallic one.
Yes, well, I thought, why not? Definitely needs
What was the story behind the metallic ones? Because I don't know much about that series from Airtoll. It was Airtoll, wasn't it?
They were brought out as a special edition.
I think it was the anniversary as well for the show.
There was a set that had a Thomas, a Percy, a Duncan, and a Reneus.
And Scarlet.
Yeah,
because I think it was Scarlet as well.
Yeah, I think there was ones that had Scarlet and Reneus, ones that had Duncan and Reneus. The only reason I know that is because I'm currently in a bidding war to get one of them. One of those sets.
Probably with us as well. We're on the other side going, that bloody and you're like, and it's all of us, but we come here and we're nice to each other. We go back to eBay and we send each other abusive messages.
Because I'm currently in a bit more something to get Bertie and Bulgy or whatever for the thing.
Nice.
Because my wee cousin's favourite character surprisingly is Bertie, but I'm like, he's like, I like the edges, but Bertie's my favourite and stuff like that. And I'm like, fair enough.
Good representation. One of the buses.
But the thing is, when Bulgy came into, he's like, oh yeah, you don't. I'm like, you don't know he's a bad guy, right? He's like, yeah, but he's cool.
He's a bad guy, but he thinks he's a good guy in his own head. That's what make the best villains, don't you?
Yeah, don't they all? They all think they're the best in the world.
Yeah,
George.
George was fantastic. I thought he was always brilliant. Nothing like a steamroller. Because he had proper serial killer tendencies. See if they made a Netflix documentary about George the Steamroller wanting to rip up the engines and turn the rails into roads. That would be a good Netflix documentary style thing. Just inside the mind of George the Steamroller.
It's like that because when I was out in the driving with my little cousin and stuff like that, and literally like he just started doing the whole railways no good turn into us. 'Cause we were passing along, and I was like, why is he saying that? And I looked over, and there's like a steamroller going by, and I was like, what the? Oh.
See with the whole Thomas thing, if you imagine the world of Thomas, so we're actually there on the island of Sodor, what kind of things with them being, digitally app, they've got their wee phones, so the trains are bringing out their phones, what are they watching on Netflix, what kind of documentaries would there be? Can you imagine like a version of Friends, but it's all just trains? or like, an investigative documentary, but it's just a train, like with a microphone?
And Ferris Gordon seems a bit more high class. I think you would watch a train version of Frasier.
Or
yes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that would be his kind of thing.
Downton Abbey, but it's all just trains.
Yeah. Downton Station.
Downton Station. Why can I see that totally working?
No, actually, as well. Like you've got one of my friends. I'm doing from series from one of my friends, and they've actually got an engine who's meant to be inspired by Maggie Smith. Actually.
Oh wow!
Wow. And literally, like, is this job meant for torture or amusement?
Oh man.
Do you know,
Right, Susan, I'm so sorry. We're
on a tangent. Sorry, Susan.
It's just you're out for today.
Yeah, just a bit.
Majorly, but we also have other good news for our fireman Thomas. But not only has he been accepted into university to study, yes, thunderous applause.
Yes, thank you.
But he's also working on his own Thomas projects. We also talked about Thomas Reborn, but tell us about the movie that you're working on.
So essentially, we're going to basically do a complete rewrite for the UK of Thomas and the Magic Railroad, which is basically going to be British, let's say UK-fied, because the problem people had with the original film obviously was the whole fact that it was too geared towards America, because Thomas was literally, it was credited as a Thomas film, but like fans going like, oh, Thomas was only for like 20 minutes at most or whatever, and then the rest of it was all humans and stuff like that who we'd never even met before.
Yeah.
Well, if you're from the UK.
At least from the UK, yeah, because I remember watching that when it first came out. I think it was 11 or 12, and I'm like, why is Alec Baldwin in this?
Yeah. Like, not that you don't need a reason for Alec Baldwin to be in something, because he's in a lot of classic movies, but I was confused by that as well. But I'm obviously an era above everyone else, or below in terms of being older. But I was like, wow, what's going on here? Especially when I seen Shining Time Station, because I went to Canada not long after my mum passed away, and was there for a couple of years, and like Canadian TV had Thomas and the Magic Railroad and Shining Time Station and stuff like that, and I was like, this isn't the same Thomas. I loved it because it was Thomas, and any incarnation's great, but it was just like, this is so strange compared to the original, and I wonder what the Reverend would have thought of it.
Yeah, he was about
when you think about like he had the protest about the Series 3 episode, what Henry's for, which is in what is now considered the golden era of the Thomas series. Imagine how he would feel about the stuff right now. His grave is on a spin cycle right now.
Reverend.
Yeah. I do generally feel I think Henry's Forest is a good story though, but like I can see where he was getting like annoyed at. You can understand, but like at the same time, it's still a beautifully told story, and I also need to see Henry's a grandpa all the time as well.
Yeah, that's true. So when's the production planning for your work? So what's it called officially?
So we're renaming it Thomas and the Mystery of the Lost Engine.
Hey,
because
which I love that title, I've got to say.
Because it's like, but we have the changes we've made is like we've really limited the human side down. So like most of the human story is kind of taken away, but we still get the characters who did impact on the original film, and then the majority of the story is now on Sodor essentially. Good. Diesel Time gets to be a little bit more sinister, but we also do find Lady's backstory as well, like to why Diesel 10 hates her so much. Yeah. But I'm not trying to give that away because I want to still be able to
It's very well written though, very well written. I read a lot of scripts obviously, and Thomas was kind enough to let me read the script, and I'm hoping to collaborate on it with him, but the script itself, it's a very, very strong idea. I love the fact that you've been so true to everything, and there's all these like callbacks and throwbacks and things that make it just a more cohesive. I think people are going to really enjoy it. I think people will love it. No,
definitely. And we'll also give you support as well, whatever you need it. And speaking of support, we actually got our first sponsor. Yeah, answer. So I want to actually thank Rockstar Energy for providing us with these energy drinks. I will warn you, last time I had an energy drink, I took an asthma attack. So here we go.
I must apologise. I'm not holding a Rockstar can because I actually don't drink energy drinks.
But Rockstar, don't let that put you off sponsoring us next time.
I live off these guys. I live off Rockstar.
And, every actor lives off these essentially.
Yeah, well, that's what I found out. I was in a band at the time, and it was an energy drink that they gave me before I went on, and I was just so hyper and enjoying it, and I'm like, I got off, I was like, oh, that was brilliant. I can't breathe. Down I went. Down I went. But it wasn't Rockstar that went around at the time, so thank you to Rockstar for sponsoring us. Next time, give us money.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. So
That's so nice, actually. I've never tried that one.
That is nice because it's blueberry, and thank God my kids aren't old enough to enjoy energy drinks because Kieran absolutely loves blueberries. Imagine a 4-year-old or an energy drink. My God, it'd be like Sonic the Hedgehog on crack.
I've seen that once.
I'm just waiting for you three for it to kick in with you three because I'm definitely going to be outnumbered then. You know, you're all going to be bouncing off the walls. But I have to say, you've all taken a drink. And now you're speaking, and I'm getting these wafts of fruit. And well, it could be worse. It could be worse. But no, it actually smells nice. So keep talking to me.
It smells like you're in a wash store right now.
Yeah.
You haven't sponsored, but please consider it.
Yeah, well, my kids love your products as well. So mine's is blueberry. Yours is tropical.
Tropical guava.
And I'm the basic.
Right,
I'm the basic one at the.
He's the basic bitch.
Yeah.
This one's got
Because he's bogging off the Carlisle.
Oh, the book.
There we go.
The precious book.
Yeah, he's bogging off the Carlisle, so we're like, right, you get the one that looks like Strongbow. Yeah, it does a little bit. Well, and since we are
Cardiff, not Carlisle.
Carlisle, Cardiff. Definitely Cardiff. It's just I think because a lot of my friends went to the University of Carlisle.
Aye.
Well, that's probably where I just got confused. I'm like, he isn't going to Wales, is he? Oh wait, he's going to Wales.
Yeah. Also, I've got a friend. Also, one of the peeps who's actually in the Reborn cast actually works on I think it's the Durning Railway, so where Durning that works as well.
Oh, nice.
So I'm like, everyone just bring his grace down.
Oh man, well if you get to meet his grace, I will punch you.
That's the camera. That's a claim right there.
Yeah, but
Help me, please! The Halloween prisoner!
No, definitely, I wouldn't do it that way. And congratulations again. It's it's thoroughly deserved.
Yeah.
We wish you nothing but success. As you roll off.
Please remember us up here.
Yeah.
Mere mortals in Glasgow.
Yeah, we'll need a new regular fireman. Since ours is,
And as long as I get
Work
work
project.
projects, I'll come up.
well, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Listen, you're going to uni. Do you seriously think you're going to have time for everyone back in Glasgow? Come on.
No. You create your own version in Wales and then we can sue you for money.
Well, there's always Zoom. Zoom them in.
Yeah,
Just put the laptop on the chair and just have them talking through the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be like, hi everybody. I'm in Wales. It really is this rainy.
You'll feel right at home then.
Yeah. Well, since this is like Tom's kind of at the moment his last hurrah, we thought we'd do like one of his favourite books, which is Henry the Green Engine. The 6th book in the Railway series. Yours will be in there. I had a look because one of the things we were looking at was how yours are out of sequence. It goes Gordon, Edward, James, Henry, 3 railway engines. Ironically, no Thomas, even though he's on the front cover.
False advertising.
Yeah, definitely, but that just emphasises there was more to life on Sodor than just Thomas.
Exactly. It's not all about you, Hen.
Yeah. No, about you, don't go there, girlfriend.
I love how classy the photos look in this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, looking at those pictures here, I really like those pictures.
The artwork's amazing in this one.
Yeah, the artwork is fantastic. Like obviously, when my copy is from 2015 re-release, so they've been had a bit more restoration.
Yeah.
What year was that?
This was 92.
92.
It was published, originally published in.
There we go, 1992.
1992.
Your series 3 came out on TV.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it says here, the story Percy and the Trousers is adapted from one told by Mr. C. Hampton Ellis in The Trains We Love. We gratefully acknowledge his permission to use it. And I'm looking for who had done the artwork on this as well. It doesn't actually say.
That was Dolby.
Was it?
That was the original.
That's actually the shortest story in this whole book, actually, Percy and the Trousers, because there's only 2 pages in this book.
Yeah, and since we didn't get like a learning for a look bit for this episode, there we go. We've got one of our facts adapted from a story told by Mr. C. Hamilton Ellis. In the Trains We Loved. We gratefully acknowledge his permission to use it. So there we go.
And Henry Sneeze, which we'll get on to later.
We'll get on to Henry Sneeze, believe me. So let's just dive into Henry the Green Engine.
I suffer dreadfully and no one cares. Rubbish, Henry!
snorted James.
You don't work hard enough.
Henry was bigger than James, but smaller than Gordon. Sometimes he could pull trains, sometimes no strength at all. The Fat Controller spoke to him too.
You are too expensive, Henry. You've had lots of new parts and new paint too, but they've done you no good. If we can't make you better, we must get another engine instead of you.
This made Henry, his driver, and his fireman very sad. The Fat Controller was waiting when Henry came to the platform. He had taken off his hat and coat and put on overalls. Climbed onto the footplate and Henry started.
Henry is a bad steamer.
Said the fireman.
I built up his fire, but it doesn't give enough heat.
Henry tried very hard, but it was no good. He had not enough steam, and they stopped outside Edward's station.
Oh dear,
Thought Henry sadly.
I shall have to go away.
Edward took charge of the train. Henry stopped behind.
What do you think is wrong, fireman?
Asked the Fat Controller. The fireman mopped his face.
Excuse me, sir,
He answered.
but the coal is wrong. We've had a poor lot lately, and today it's worse. The other engines can manage. They have big fireboxes. Henry's small and can't make the heat. With Welsh coal, it'd be a different engine.
It's expensive,
Said the Fat Controller thoughtfully.
but Henry must have a fair chance. James shall go and fetch some.
When the Welsh coal came, Henry's driver and fireman were excited.
Now we'll show them, Henry, old fellow.
They carefully oiled all his joints and polished his brass till it shone like gold. His fire had already been lit, so the fireman made it carefully. He put large lumps of coal like a wall round the outside. Then he covered the glowing middle part with smaller lumps.
You're spoiling my fire.
Complained Henry.
Wait and see.
Said the fireman.
We'll have a roaring fire just when we want it.
He was right. When Henry reached the platform, the water was boiling nicely, and he had to let off steam to show how happy he was. He made such a noise that the Fat Controller came out to see him.
How are you, Henry?
Pip, pip, pip.
Whistled Henry.
I feel fine.
Have you a good fire, driver? Never bare, sir. With plenty of steam. No record breaking.
Warned the Fat Controller, smiling.
Don't push him too hard. Henry won't need pushing, sir. I'll have to hold him back.
Henry had a lovely day. He had never felt so well in his life. He wanted to go fast, but his driver wouldn't let him.
Steady, old fellow.
He would say.
There's plenty of time.
They arrived early at the junction.
Where have you been, lazybones?
Asked Henry when Thomas puffed in.
I can't wait for loading tank engines like you. Goodbye.
said Thomas to Annie and Clarabel as Henry disappeared.
Have you ever seen anything like it?
Both Annie and Clarabel agreed that they never had. Lots of ships use the harbour at the big station by the sea. The passenger ships have spotless paint and shining brass. Other ships, though smaller and dirtier, are important too. They take coal, machinery and other things abroad and bring back meat, timber and things that we need. Fishing boats also come there. They unload their fish on the quay. Some of it is sent to shops in the town and some goes in a special train to other places far away. The railway men call this train the Flying Kipper. One winter evening, Henry's driver said,
We'll be out early tomorrow. We've got to take the Flying Kipper. Don't tell Gordon.
he whispered.
I think if we pull the Kipper nicely, that controller will let us pull the Express.
Hurrah!
Cried Henry, excited.
That will be lovely.
He was ready at 5 o'clock. There was snow and frost. Men hustled and shouted, loading the vans with crates of fish. The last door banged. The guard showed his green lamp and they were off.
Come on, don't be silly,
Puffed Henry to the vans as his wheels slipped on the icy rails. The vans shuddered and groaned.
Trot trick, all right.
They answered grudgingly.
That is better.
Puffed Henry, more happily as the train began to gather speed. Thick clouds of smoke and steam poured from his funnel into the cold air, and when his firemen put on more coal, the fire's light shone brightly on the snow around.
Hurry.
Panted Henry. They hushed onto the bridges and clattered through stations, green signal lights showing as they passed. They were going well. The light grew better and a yellow signal appeared up ahead.
Distance signal up.
Thought Henry.
Caution.
His driver, shutting off the steam, prepared to stop, but the home signal was down.
All clear, Henry. Away we go.
They couldn't know the points from the main line to his siding were frozen, and that the signal had been set at danger. A fall of snow had forced it down. A goods train waited in the siding to let the Flying Kipper pass. The driver and fireman were drinking cocoa in the brake van. The guard pulled out his watch.
Kipper is due.
He said,
Who cares?
said the fireman.
This is good cocoa.
The driver got up.
Come on, fireman, back to our engine.
Hey,
The fireman grumbled.
I haven't finished my cocoa yet.
A sudden crash. The brake van broke. The three men shot in the air like jacks in the box and landed in the snow outside. Henry's driver, the fireman, jumped clear before the crash. The fireman fell headfirst into heaps of snow. He kicked so hard that the driver couldn't pull him out. Henry sprawled on his side. He looked surprised. The goods train fireman waved his empty mug.
You clumsy great engine. The best cup of cocoa I've ever had. You bump into me and spill it all.
Never mind your cocoa, fireman.
Laughed his driver.
Run and telephone the breakdown gang.
The gang soon cleared the line, but they had hard work lifting Henry onto the rails. The fat controller came to see him.
The signal was down, sir.
Said Henry nervously.
Cheer up, Henry. It wasn't your fault. Ice and snow caused the accident. I'm sending you to Crewe, a fine place for SIG engines. They'll give you a new shape and a larger firebox. Then you'll feel a different engine, and won't need special coal anymore. Won't that be nice?
Yes, sir.
Said Henry doubtfully. Henry liked being at Crewe, but he was glad to come home. A crowd of people waited to see him arrive in his new shape. He looked so splendid and strong that they gave him 3 cheers.
Peep, 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 peep. Thank you very much.
He whistled happily. I am so sorry to say that a lot of little boys are often late for school because they wait to see Henry go by. They often see him pulling the express, and he does it so well that Gordon is jealous. But that's another story. Gordon was cross.
Why should Henry have a new shed?
He grumbled.
A shed good enough for me is good enough for him. He goes gallivanting off to crew, leaving us all to do his work. It's disgraceful. And here's another thing. Henry whistles too much. No respectful engine ever whistles loudly at stations. It isn't wrong,
Said Gordon.
but we just don't do it.
Poor Henry didn't feel happy anymore.
Never mind.
Whispered Percy.
I'm glad you're home again. I like your whistling.
Goodbye, Henry.
Called Gordon next morning and left the shed.
We are glad to have you with us again, but be sure and remember what I said about whistling.
Later on, Henry took a slow train and presently stopped at Edward's station.
Hello, Henry.
Said Edward.
You look splendid. I was pleased to hear your happy whistle yesterday.
Thank you, Edward.
Smiled Henry.
Shh, shh. Can you hear something?
Edward listened. Far away, but getting louder and louder, was the sound of an engine's whistle.
It sounds like Gordon,
Said Edward.
and it ought to be Gordon. Gordon never whistles like that.
It was Gordon. He came rushing down the hill at a tremendous rate. He didn't look at Henry, and he didn't look at Edward. He was purple in the boiler and whistling fit to burst. He screamed through the station and disappeared.
Well,
Said Edward, looking at Henry.
It isn't wrong,
Chuckled Henry,
but we just don't do it.
and he told Edward what Gordon had said. Meanwhile, Gordon screeched along the line. People came out of their houses, air raid sirens started, 5 fire brigades got ready to go out, horses upset their carts and old ladies dropped their parcels. At a big station, the noise was awful. Porters and passengers held their ears. The Fat Controller held his ears too and gave a lot of orders. But no one could hear them, and Gordon went on whistling. At last, he clambered into Gordon's cab.
take him away
Bellowed.
and stop that noise.
Still whistling, Gordon puffed sadly away. He whistled as he crossed the points. He whistled on the siding. He was still whistling as the last Deccan passenger left the station. Then 2 fitters climbed up and knocked his whistle valve into place. And there was silence. Gordon slunk into the shed. His glad it was empty.
It isn't wrong,
Murmured Henry to no one in particular.
but we just don't do it.
No one mentioned whistles. On cold mornings, Percy often saw workmen wearing scarves.
My funnel's cold. My funnel's cold.
He would puff.
I want a scarf. I want a scarf.
Rubbish, Percy.
Said Henry one day.
Engines don't wear scarves.
Engines with proper funnels do.
Said Percy in his cheeky way.
You've only got a small one.
Henry snorted. He was proud of his short, neat funnel. Just then, a train came in and Percy, still puffing,
I want a scarf. I want a scarf.
went to take the coaches to their siding. His driver always shut off steam just outside the station, and Percy would try to surprise the coaches by coming in as quietly as he could. Two porters were taking some luggage across the line. They had a big load and were walking backwards to see that none fell off the trolley. Percy arrived so quietly that the porters didn't hear him until the trolley was on the line. The porters jumped clear. The trolley disappeared with a crunch. Boxes and bags burst in all directions. Groaned Percy and stopped. Sticky streams of red and yellow jam trickled down his face. A top hat hung on his lamp iron. Clothes, hats, boots, shoes, skirts and blouses stuck to his front. A pair of striped trousers coiled lovingly round his funnel. They were grey no longer. Angry passengers looked at their broken trunks. The fat controller seized the top hat.
Mine!
He said crossly.
Percy!
He shouted.
Look at this!
Yes, sir, I am, sir.
A muffled voice replied.
My best trousers too!
Oh, yes, sir. Please, sir.
Said Percy nervously.
I am very cross.
Said the fat controller.
We must pay the passengers for their spoilt clothes. My hat is dented, and my trousers are ruined. All because you will come into the station as if you were playing grandmother steps with the coaches.
The driver unwound the trousers. The fat controller waved them away.
Percy wanted a scarf. You shall have my trousers for a scarf. They will keep him warm.
Percy wore them back to the yard. He doesn't like scarves now. One lovely Saturday morning, Henry was puffing along. The sun shone, the fields were green, the birds sang. Henry had plenty of steam in his boiler, and he was feeling happy.
I feel so well, I feel so well.
He sang,
Trippity-trop, trippity-trop.
pumped his coaches. Henry saw some boys on a bridge.
Peep, peep, ho.
He whistled cheerfully.
Peep, peep, peep.
He called the next moment.
Oh.
For the boys didn't wave and take his number. They dropped stones on him instead. They were silly, stupid boys who thought it would be fun to drop stones down his funnel. Some of the stones hit Henry's boiler and spoiled his paint. One hit the fireman on the head as he was shoveling coal, and others broke the carriage windows.
It's a shame, it's a shame.
Hissed Henry.
They've broken our glass! They've broken our glass!
Sobbed the coaches. The driver opened the first aid box, bandaged the fireman's head and planned what he was going to do. They stopped the train and the guard asked if the passengers were hurt. No one was hurt, but everyone was cross. They saw the fireman's bumped head and told him what to do for it, and they looked at Henry's paint.
Call the police!
They shouted angrily.
No,
Said the driver.
leave it to Henry and me. We'll teach those lads a lesson.
What will you do?
They asked.
Can you keep a secret?
Yes, yes!
They all said.
Well then,
Said the driver.
Henry is going to sneeze at them.
What?
Cried all the passengers. The driver laughed.
Henry draws the air in through his fire and puffs it out with smoke and steam. When he puffs hard, the air blows ashes from his fire into his smoke box. And these ashes sometimes prevent him from puffing properly. When your nose is blocked, you sometimes sneeze. Henry's smoke box is blocked. I can make air and steam blow the ashes out through his fur. We'll do it at the bridge. Startle those boys.
Henry puffed on to the terminus where he had a rest. Then he took the train back. Lots of people were waiting at the station just before the bridge. They wanted to see what would happen.
Henry has plenty of ashes.
Said the driver.
Please keep all windows shut till we pass the bridge. Henry is as excited as we are, aren't you, old Phil?
And he patted Henry's boiler. Henry didn't answer. He was feeling stuffed up, but he winked at his driver, like this. The guard's flag waved, his whistle blew, and they were off. Soon in the distance they saw the bridge. There were the boys, and they all had stones,
Are you ready, Henry?
said his driver.
Sneeze hard when I tell you. Now!
He said, and turned the handle.
That's it. Whoosh!
Smoke and steam and ashes spouted from his funnel. They went all over the bridge and all over the boys who ran away black as soot.
Well done, Henry!
Laughed his driver.
They won't drop stones on engines again. Your coat is all black. We'll rub you down and paint your scratches. Good as new to them.
Henry has never again sneezed under a bridge. The back controller doesn't like it. His smoke box is always cleaned in the yard while he's resting. He has now gone under more bridges than he can count. But from that day to this, there have been no more stones.
So that was Henry the Green Engine, well, the only book that has 5 stories in it, so there was a lot more innuendo in the blooper reel.
Is that really five stories in that one, yeah?
Yeah, it's the only one that's got 5 stories, the rest have all got 4,
Okay.
which is an interesting one, but yeah, one of the stories is probably redundant, as we'll discuss.
Yes.
But sadly, we don't have a Learning with Luke segment today because, well, isn't provided by one. Well, but we'll probably get back on that with the next book. So what we'll do is we'll discuss what we thought of the books. We'll start with the non-Thomas side, one, and then it'll be all the Thomas side, which is that's 3. 3 men and a Thomas. That just sounds like a bad porno, doesn't it?
That was a cigar, by the way. I was doing a Marx Brothers impersonation there, and then I was like, no, that may have come across the wrong way.
It was like you were doing that's a cigar, and just I was moving my hand, I hit your leg, and I'm like, uh-oh. Black casting couch.
Slow it down in the boat, bro.
So Susan, what did you think of it? What the book?
It was interesting, they were interesting, as you say, full of innuendo, and I just realised I'm sitting here and I'm doing that with my with my long nails.
This is why probably we've been getting so many views. It's like it's not down to the fact it's the stories, it's like all the innuendos and stuff that we talk about. And they're just like, okay, I'm like, oh, there's a girl.
That's giving us Susan's nails, because they're
And my
fantastic.
nails.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, never realised they were actually, homegrown.
They are. They're real. They're not fake. They're totally mine.
Yep, and totally terrifying.
But yeah, Henry's definitely full of innuendos, and I like it.
There we go.
I can't wait to see the outtakes of this.
Should be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
But it was good to note that it wasn't just me this week that was, tittering.
Yes, yeah. Frank cost us a couple of takes.
I'm sorry. There was a couple of points where and I don't know if it's the way Susan accentuates some of her words. But
all right, blame the talent.
I was just like, okay, it's totally not my fault. But a couple of things I was like, those words are so innocent when you're a child when you're reading these things, and I was like trying not to laugh. The more you try not to laugh in a situation, as you guys know, it just made it so much worse, and I was like, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know, I was sitting there and I could see what was coming up and who was going to be saying it, and I knew what was going to happen, and I'm reading it and I'm shaking my head and I'm trying to say to the others, don't laugh, because I was just in that mindset. I am not going to laugh again, I'm going to get through this. But no, I love stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of the actual story rather than the innuendos, what did you think of it? Or is it just a case of the innuendos are kind of blanked out?
Yeah. No, it's interesting. They're interesting because the more I'm actually reading the books, the more I am actually seeing in them, but from an adult's perspective, obviously, and at the same time, I'm trying to relate back to being a child. Although I didn't read them as a child, I read them to my kids, and it's really, really interesting because it does make you wonder what goes through authors' minds when they're actually writing things.
Well, it was
it's interesting.
It was quite an interesting thing, like, because when I interviewed Nicholas Jones, who did the Thompson Tank Engine Man documentary, by the time this goes out, the link will be in the description, so you can all check it out. Because, well, Thomas community, I got to speak to an actual Thomas person. but he'd actually said that in a lot of the author circles, they didn't rate Wilbur Audrey.
What?
They didn't like him. Not at all. They thought that he wasn't a real author, quote unquote. It was the same with Eve Blyton, who done the Naughty books.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't like her either because it's like a kind of a kid's book. Well, they were just like, no, they didn't rate him, they didn't like him, and if anything, that's gave me more encouragement to do this series, because we as Thomas fans, we see that it can relate to adults. I mean, we spent like 25 minutes laughing at fucking innuendos all the way through them, so there is relation there. But even the stuff that they talk about as well, like you guys know from the story of Henry, how he was created, like he was drawn incorrectly like 2 or 3 times, and Audrey decided to use that to his advantage, and that's how this book came about. That's how it got the whole, like, he's got the new shape, and this is why he's got the new shape.
Right.
So essentially, it was taking this massive error, instead of writing the character out, which was he was originally going to do, and then he got so much love for Henry from the fans. About like how's it's really sad that he's not well, blah blah blah, as he established in the other ones, because it was building up to, we're going to write him off and send him away.
Henry.
Yeah. You couldn't catch a break.
I wonder, is the action figures, to me they're action figures because they all have fun and do train things. Do the toys, the Airtel toys, have a before and after Henry, or is it just the after Henry that we had?
Well,
you can get them before Henry as well, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think so.
They're quite good to compare them side by side and see how different they look.
I know, but something that I
like
always
10 years younger, like except trains, it's like Botox in the trains.
Yeah. There's a fan-made video, and it's fucking terrifying. It's basically set when he goes to crew.
Right.
Because he goes to crew to get made better, and he comes back in his new shape. The way that they've done it is that that Henry goes to crew, and he's just left to rot and rust.
Ooh.
And it's a new Henry that comes out.
Oh, okay.
Because it's the new Henry in the new shape. Because there was a lot of theories going around years ago that that it wasn't the same Henry that went and came back, because he would have had to get totally overhauled. So essentially, think if you're at the moment them.
Pod person replacing.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So that was basically Henry. They all thought he was a pod person, and they're like, oh, they've replaced him, they've killed him off, and so they go with this in this fan edit. I watched that only like a year ago, so 34, and it gave me fucking nightmares.
They've done a few things with that. They've done one with them. I don't know if you guys are old enough to know about Home and Away. Papa from Home and Away changed. So it was originally played by I can't remember the lady's name that played the original Pippa.
Probably best we don't say it in case we get sued.
Yeah, but the lovely lady who played the original Pippa was the role was taken over by Deborah Lawrence, who is a massive Australian actress. She's phenomenal. She made that role her own, but a lot of people started going back and editing it and using footage in, obviously episodes of Home and Away, but also incorporating a lot of Neighbours, because a lot of Home and Away cast are in Neighbours. Editing it, adding some spooky music into it, it made it look like the original Pippa was abducted and then replaced by the new Pippa. And also, they looked nothing alike. It was, one had blonde curly hair, the other was red hair, totally different build and height. They look nothing like each other, but just they replaced them. They've done some in the Monsters as well. It's
also something I noticed a lot of in the Australian soaps. By the time this goes out, Neighbours will probably be done, thank God. One of the things that they do is if someone's going away, they're on maternity leave, or if they're off sick, they'll just, instead of writing the character out for a while, bring them back, they just get another actor in to replace that character, and you're like,
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me, like, because like all the natural chemistry you built up with your other cast members with this character, and all of a sudden it's like, hello, here's stunt double guy.
Yeah.
What, and he's there. What, and it's like, okay.
They sometimes have fun with it though. I don't know if
Yeah.
anybody's a fan of Prisoner Cell Block H. It's one of my favourite shows. Absolutely love it. The lady who played Doreen in Prisoner Cell Block H was she's a main cast member of Neighbours right now. But back in the day, she replaced the actress who played Cheryl in Home and Away, and the actress who played Cheryl was also in Prisoner, so she took over while one of the actresses was sick. And again, they just had fun with it because they know the character and they just change the hairstyle a bit and they actually bring it into the dialogue. Oh, you're looking different today. Like, oh, something I put my finger on.
That was like the Fresh Prince, wasn't it, when they replaced Aunt Bev? You know, there's something different about you since you had that baby. That's that kind of
Oh,
sly
did they
look
do that
there.
in Fresh Prince as well?
Yeah, well, the very first day they had that. He has that kind of look of not bad.
Well, do you know, producers, we actually have a lot of fun with that behind the scenes as well because in our industry, cast change all the time, and from the 98% pilot we done to the next episode, we obviously changed some of the cast members. But we've got this thing where if any actors piss us off at any point, say for instance this is a sitcom and you're playing, you know, Aunt Susan, and you know you're playing Wacky Andrew, right? So if at any point we were to annoy the producers behind the scenes, the metaphorical people behind the cameras here, you know, Aunt Susan would be found dead behind the door. So, we don't even need you for it, we just need to use the same shoes you have there. The cast walk in and go, oh no, Aunt Susan's dead, and we just see a shot of the foot like poking out from behind the door, and then a shot of us reacting to it, oh no, Aunt Susan's dead. And then the next episode, Aunt Susan's got a sister played by an actress who might look and sound exactly like you, who replaces the storyline, and it's just, you know, an easy way to get rid of difficult actors. So,
as well as learning about the railway series, you're learning about how we can kill people off and get away with it.
Indeed.
Can I just say though, thinking about it, that what you were explaining there about how some people thought that it's a brand new Henry that came out, I'm just thinking about the fact that Henry had a disability. He wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
So it's all about you know, disabilities, inclusivity and diversity.
Yeah.
You know, which is a huge thing now. But you know, I mean, perhaps I'm reading a bit too much into it.
No,
but
this
it just
is the
seems
point.
that-
I don't know, Percy had a short funnel, you know what I mean? Like poor Percy. A short stumpy funnel, or a short stumpy boiler with a short stumpy dome, you know.
That's
So
Thomas.
that's
Thomas.
I know, I'm just name dropping here. But you know, that kind of thing, a lot of kids, like, you know, in the changing room probably might be, you know, worried about the size of their own funnel when compared to some of the other trains in the yard. So these kind of things.
I mean, and in fairness as well, like Percy, like his original design was like an abomination because it wasn't meant to be based on the model of Oliver. And then he did the design kind of wrong. It looked more like a saddle tank, and then it was like just some weird kind of thing that no one could class the engine as.
Okay.
So he's just a totally his own unique engine. And that's why he never looks right when you try and if you get like DSC out with Thomas or whatever, and you get this engine, you're like, you don't look like Percy. Well, and that's why, because there is no engine that looks like Percy.
Exactly, Percy's his own Percy.
Yeah.
He is what he is.
Yes, exactly. He is what he is.
He is his own special crew.
Like, and it's the same like with Henry. Like obviously he's got the problem with having a small firebox, which is what it is. And then she's like,
it's not about the size of the firebox; it's the size of the flames you create with it.
yeah, as I always say.
And the amount of fires that you build.
Yep. So it's
How steamy you make it, boom boom.
Yeah.
No, but it's one of those things. Like a lot of things back then maybe didn't even. The Reverend Audrey maybe never thought of including, you know, like disability and anything like that because it wasn't really in the mainstream to discuss.
Yeah, because it's in the 50s. So
yeah, his era, it was really just about like, you know, feel good stories and educating people about trains because, like, you know, I like the educational aspect of knowing, you know, what went into making a train work.
Yeah.
What went into running a station, what went into, you know, like the everyday running of a whole railway.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of it.
It's like when they done the Whistles and Sneezes episodes, like in series 1, where they put the two stories together. And he says on there, like, you know, on the TV, Henry's going to sneeze at those boys, but you never find out how he does it. But in the books, he explains it. And I'm like, right, because I always wondered. I was like, how can an engine sneeze?
And
then it was like when I read it, I was like, oh.
I think it's also mainly because I think the reason why they cut that obviously is because they have to obviously stick the 4.5 minute storytelling time as well.
Yeah.
So like,
but then again, like you said, it was full of like stuff. Like for example,
you know, the Reverend, why instead of it being black as soot, it was black as
Edward.
a certain word.
Right.
Oh.
Yep. So
And basically that stayed in the book as well for about 20 years.
Yeah.
But then
I
in
didn't realise that.
Yeah.
Then when Egmont Publishing wanted to republish the book again for a new release in 1972, they went, oh, can we change
that
the
word.
soot and stuff like that instead?
Okay.
Because then everyone's
Yeah.
like, oh, why are you changing it? It was appropriate at the time. And like, that's the point. It's not that time anymore. We want to try and get this out to a new audience without people getting offended.
I say so. There is bits in it, and like, and there's a line in the Edward Blue Engine book, like where it's like, you know, the old Iron story. You know, the boys that were like you're gonna laugh at this, but the boys that were fiddling with his controls. So at the end, you get those. You find out that those boys basically, when they got home, they got the crap kicked out of them by their parents. Because I remember I was reading this story to my boys when they were premature. They were still in their incubators in the hospital, and I was reading them the stories. And they got to that bit, and I'm like, I was like, boys, I can't read this bit to you.
You have to edit it. It's amazing that, like, you know, a kindly old reverend, because everybody that knew the reverend, like, obviously, like, would be able to tell us how his character was. They not just make an assumption from a book, but obviously there was no malice intended. It was because these phrases were so common, and I'm not that I'm saying it's right in any means, certainly not, but you know, it shows how we've evolved, even from the abuse of children when they get home, getting a severe kicking with steel toe caps. It's just not appropriate anymore, and it never really should have been at the time.
I know, it should have been soft shoes.
Gym shoes.
Yeah. Those were the ones that you got from Wilbur's back in the day.
Yeah.
They could barely cut butter, let alone anything else.
But that's the thing, it shows you how much we've come on, and I wonder, you know, what's to come from the Thomas franchise, because a lot of the newer episodes and things like that, as much as I don't rate them because they're not mine, because it's not my era, they're dealing with things like, you know, and hopefully we'll see trans engines, like, do you know what I mean, all these things brought up, and you know,
that would be like something that would be very essentially that could have been Henry having a sex change operation. If you thought about it, like, you know, because he's going to crew, like he's coming back in a new shape. All you do was call, if you hadn't already thought of the Henrietta carriage, you could have called it Henrietta. That would have been it. Simple.
Because I think education and, you know, like our future as a society, all these things stem from being children. Children learn and pick up. Like, they've done studies with kids about how, you know, how biased are children. Not very. Like, how homophobic are children? Not at all. Like, children don't have these same presumptions that we have. You know, times change, and, you know, it comes from educating children. So hopefully we'll see some sort of trans storyline, you know, maybe, not that I'm saying, like, you know, LGBT as such, having like Thomas and Percy run off to a shed together, but you know, which I always used to do as a kid, by the way. Thomas and Percy were a wee couple in my mind, but I knew nothing about gay or straight. They were just a wee pairing, because I wasn't sure if Percy was male or female, to be honest. Like, to me, they were androgynous, they were just trains. And in
fairness, they do have a gender-neutral engine in it already, and apparently they claim that the gender-neutral engine is rusty because it's never clarified whether...
It was because in when they did the hit era, in America, they called rusty used female pronouns, and over in Britain they used male. So they said, that's your first gender-neutral or transgender one, and I'm like, okay. You're just backpedaling for an error.
In fairness, Rusty can be a boy's or girl's name, in fairness, so that makes more
It
sense.
used to be my nickname.
Oh,
Rusty? Yeah.
Because it's ginger hair.
I was going to ask you, is it because your leg's sweet?
Oh man, this is the thing we do on my shows where we love tangents.
And we're off on a hell of a tangent.
We've been off on a hell of a tangent.
What was your question again, Andrew?
What did you think of the book?
Well, I love the book. I love the book, but the one thing I have noticed is the Reverend's stories don't have a beginning, middle and end, like a structure, as opposed to being a proper writer as such. Again, not that I'm saying you should have, but I can see why other writers would be like, he's come in and got all this success with the Railway series, and you know, my books have got a beginning, middle and end and a structure, and I went to uni and studied. Oh, come on.
I mean,
you know?
at first, it does have a structure, it's just the beginning, middle and end was, you know, Coal and Flying Pepper. He's done it in 2 stories.
Yeah.
And then the rest was just kind of, this is what happens afterwards. And then there's a random Percy one.
It was character building, I think. Each one story, it's not a whole story as in, It's giving you another wee bit of the life of Sodor and the characters within it. And then only by building the books, like kind of like building a jigsaw, you get the full story of this world, and it's a very immersive world. Like,
that's why he done the Island of Sodor book as well, doing this history. That's why I say it's got more lore than fucking Middle Earth.
It does, it really does.
Well, it is.
Alternative dimensions and alternative universes now, the multiverse of Thomas.
Yeah, that could certainly be one. Man, just bringing in all the Roblox Thomases, bringing in fan content, and we should get money for that with that idea.
Join the multiverse.
Yeah, join the multiverse of Thomas. And then we just get Audrey just basically going in and slapping the shit out of Henry for breaking Rule 55.
But so guys, if you were to do a multiverse of Thomas, what kind of universe would you set it in? What kind of, I'm picturing like weird 3D, like skin-like faces, like pulled across steel, like the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah. Well, I actually seen someone it was like a t-shirt that was printed that was basically somebody taking like all this skin off these people and just moulding it onto like the front of a Thomas engine. The fact that they just stand there laughing like an evil dictator.
I think I've seen something like that. It came to mind there when I was talking about it.
Yeah, it did seem like it wasn't an original idea. It was like there's something there, you've seen it.
I mean, I've seen someone actually done like a humanized version of Thomas series, like where it makes the engines actual people.
Yeah.
And it's like it's literally like if Thomas and friends actually was friends in fairness. Yeah. But like they've like also established out of the Steam team who would be with who essentially.
So ship them.
Essentially, yeah. But like the quote unquote gay couple in it is Duck and Oliver essentially.
I could see that in fairness.
That queer representation.
I could just see Duck, let's say, Oliver, there are two ways of doing things, the great Western way or the wrong way. There we go. She's not laughing. She's not yet. But yeah, she's just holding.
I'm holding.
Yeah.
And Percy's the closeted character as well, I think.
I think so. I think he would be more closeted. I think Percy and Thomas could be the Bert and Ernie.
Do you know, I was so horrified when I found out Bert and Ernie were a couple. I thought they were brothers. And then I died when I saw that episode of Family Guy. You're shouting at me, Bert. So funny. I don't like it when you're angry, Bert.
But it's like that as well. I think because it's quite funny with Duck and Oliver when Percy's like sort of like, I don't know. They're in Avenue Q, there's a song called If You Were Gay, and they actually did that song with Percy, and he's just like, shut up!
If you were gay.
If you were gay, I'd still be your best friend. It's so fun. It's so funny.
Well, but in fairness, like there's a whole like dark universe we could go down with that. It's like with like Edward, because he's such a kindly old man, but it turned out he was actually a pedo. Well, because he's always hanging about.
Why does everybody pick Edward?
Because he always hangs about the younger trains.
Okay, so there's an age difference.
So they have actually done him in one series where he's like Herbert from Family Guy.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, wishy wishes.
Yeah, it's like you just picture it like James just being like some sort of
Oh no, James was very overly gay in this.
Yeah, like that sounds about right. Here's James.
In fairness, he actually is the gay character in Thomas though, because it's like always like, why am I pink? Oh.
He's always the show off and always obsessed with his appearance, but then again, that's stereotyping, we can't have that.
Making him quite a narcissist.
I'll just make him an arse. He's just in general, he's an arsehole.
Or it's James hatred. Any James fans out there, please comment below if you love James.
Well, they've seen my Thomas is a Bob video. Wait till you see my review on James, you'll fucking hate me.
And what's the Edward one? Would it be Edward as a pedo? I mean, come on, you're really harking it to the engines here, these poor engines.
I love Edward, doesn't matter what he does. Well, as long as I don't find out about it, don't ruin my childhood.
In my head, you know how we were talking about the Thomas the Tank Engine kind of Netflix?
Yeah.
If there was a world of Thomas the Tank Engine where they watch Netflix, what kind of shows would we have? Just this dark silhouetted picture of James's face on one side and the true story of Edward.
Yeah.
Giving a long, kind of behind the scenes expose on how he worked with Edward and how much a horror he was.
What really happened in Old Byron?
What I feel like Donald and Douglas would be like the sort of goth twins and like watching Stranger Things, to be fair.
Oh
my god, a Stranger Things and Thomas, kind of hybrid. Imagine an upside down version of Thomas the Tank Engine.
You might not what Thomas the Tank Engine Stranger Things, that was out in the 80s.
I know, I think it's because it was in the US and they kind of had things like Ghostbusters and all these kind of big American shows.
They were a little bit later to the party.
I just want to say, I don't know what they're talking about because I'm probably one of the only people that's never watched Stranger Things.
Do you know what
I've watched 2 series.
Yeah.
I got 2 series and I was like,
I've only watched clips as well, so I can't really say.
Really? Oh my god. Okay, so none of us have done the Stranger Things podcast, it looks like.
Yeah.
I'd recommend it, like, if you like
Well,
nostalgia.
if anybody wants to persuade me, it's not that I've deliberately not watched it. It's on Netflix, isn't it?
Netflix.
Yeah.
I can't afford Netflix.
Don't worry. Can we?
No.
What is
Well, I
Illegally download.
Well,
I mean,
I
I didn't say that.
it? Password share.
it.
Hashtag password share. Netflix, you got that one wrong. So anyway, that's been the massive tangent. So now what we have to try and do is we go for the yay or nay. And this is where we take this book, Henry Green Engine, and we ask, if you were an adult reading this book, would you recommend it to another adult who necessarily didn't have kids? Could you read this on your own to find out kind of what happens next? Well, do you think it's appealing for all ages, adults, children, the whole shebang? Like would I be able to go and just pick it up and read it if I put my voice to bed? Like if I fell asleep during, for example, during Flying Kipper, and then be like, right, well, I want to find out what happens next. And right, so
I say nay. Actually, controversially, because
Yes.
I love the books, but I feel as though you kind of need to know some of the lores of the characters, a little bit about railways. You need to be in that kind of mindset. For someone that maybe didn't know anything about the stories, the characters of the railways. I'm not sure if that was the first book I picked up, whether I would have got into the series as much. But purely because there's better moments, there's better kind of relationships. There was very little relationships between the engines in this, I think. There's better stories. Not that I'm criticising the story at all, it's just, there are ones that I think there's more tender moments, more moments where the characters shine. It was not as great as some of the other stories for me.
Well, in fairness, the one person in the Trousers, I just don't. I know that they put a wee forward saying that it was based on a story by, and we're grateful for it. It just feels like someone was just like using my backhander to put it in, because it doesn't feel like it fits in the overall. Like the rest of the books we've all got is around a group, around a folks character, kind of has that overall arc. It was just like we got Henry's arc, and we got story. Random person moment, and then we're back to the story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, the only reason that it probably would have went is because they had Henry at that start bit with that, small one. And you're just like, so even me reading that, it felt very out of place for me. But the first two stories in it are great. I always think they're fantastic.
They are great stories.
Whistles and Sneezes I was never as big fan of, but I did enjoy them. And then just having that Percy and the Treasures one in there, I'm like, nah. Well, what about you, Susan? What do you think?
I think I actually have to agree with you, considering I've never read the stories before. It was a weird mix. I like the inclusivity, the diversity, because to me it's definitely there. But the stories were nonsensical. They just didn't make sense. And just like Frank says, if that was the first book that I'd sort of like picked up and read, would it have encouraged me to read further? Probably, maybe not. So I think for me this time, I'm actually going to say no.
Well, the irony is, the Flying Kipper is one of the best episodes of Thomas.
The
series, because it showed exactly what it could be with the direction, with how they used the live models, how they created the winter setting, how they done the crash as well. By the fact you can see a hand for like 2 seconds. But
can you?
Yeah, when he crashes into the brake van, you just see for a split second just a wee hand in the back. Holding the back of him.
Was that your finger? If you're out there and you want to come on the podcast, what do you know?
Yeah, let me find out what was it like finding it.
Oh, classic.
There we go. But aside from that whole episode is like one of the best of Thomas as a whole. Well, I know that other people might disagree, but it's one of my favourites. It's definitely in the top.
I think the animation, sorry, not the animation, the
illustrations.
The illustrations in the book are beautiful. They're absolutely on point.
I thought he was starting to find a bit more of his stride, I think.
Yeah.
With it. Because eventually it does kind of drop off a cliff when it gets closer to the end of his kind of era. But at the same time, his illustrations were kind of getting more on form, especially like how the whole point was that the whole point of this book was redo Henry. Like, don't feck him up like everybody else has done. Redo him, make him up like a real engine based on a real locomotive that we can work with going forward.
Yeah.
And that design type did not change, like, did not deviate. So the fact that he was able to do that and nail that down, well, a lot of people kind of think Dolby's the lesser of the illustrators. Well, I personally disagree with that, because I think if it wasn't for his kind of ones going, it might not have probably the need for improvements going forward.
Yeah.
Because there was demand for it. Because it's colourful and visual, and then it sets up for everything kind of coming after it.
That's definitely the show for the book for me, is the illustrations and the fact that it brings the characters to life in that way. The stories don't bring the characters to life as so much, but it's not because of a lack of talent on obviously the writer's part, on the Reverend Audrey's part. It's more just the characters. There's a lot of turmoil and people being angry at each other, and that can develop the characters. But it kind of shows the fact that Joker sometimes can seem a bit curt and crude sometimes, but he's very kind and he's a nice guy.
He was kind in the sense that, he gave when he said, "What do you think's up with him?" Well, he's cold drawn. It's like, well, give him a fair chance. I know it's going to cost me money, but he deserves a shot. Well, and I think it was more a case because you find out in the book that he got swindled. Because he wanted a kind of similar one to Gordon kind of style. Well, in that the end of the Solar History book, he writes it. He's like he wanted to design based on that, but he got templates for a design that was stolen, that wasn't like a real kind of mocked up engine, and he was creative out of that. He uses, let's just say, not very choice language to describe how he got swindled.
Even if you're a rebel.
So it's the fact that he's able to use all that and build such a backstory around him, but at the same time you have to read the first 4 books to really get the message behind it all. To understand it. I think, like you said, if you go in and he's like, oh, I feel sick, we might scrap you if you don't pull your weight. And then he has a crash. Then he comes back, it's a different person. Okay.
I think that's kind of why the book doesn't resonate for maybe a new fan as much as it would someone else. I think that obviously we all have our favourites and our favourite episodes and stuff like that. But like you said about the show, the actual episode of the Flying Ship was so cinematic. Because they were starting to get into their side about how they move the camera, the motion around the engines, the lighting was starting to come on leaps and bounds. The way it was so beautifully shot. It shows how something being developed from page to screen can change, and I think it did improve because it's faithful to the books, but there was slight changes in the episodes.
Well, the Flying Kipper the story, they're having this whole thing about you've ruined my cocoa, but they took it out of the episode and they played it straight, and it was just it was a serious crash, and he was.
It added some urgency to it.
The
episode, I was genuinely worried about Henry.
So that was where I thought, on a rare occasion where an adaptation is done better than the source material.
I was going to say, with Henry's crash actually, as well in the TV series, it's because I was after the crash actually happens, there's that brief 5 seconds after it happens, so the audience go take in
take a breath.
Betty's fucked.
It's like how people complain about the Marvel movies now, if they have a serious moment, they've got to instantly lighten it up with some levity and some humour. And there was let the moment sit and breathe for a little bit before we do something like that. That's what that episode of the Flying Kipper and Thomas did. It let it breathe and just we just seen that engine that we all just take a battering.
Because I think when I was looking at the footage for this, when I was trying to do it with the guys on Roblox and stuff like that, I didn't like the fact that we had to then add in the whole part of the fabric mourning about his cocoa, because it just because we all are used to the TV episode where it's the crash happens and then in fact comes to see Henry. So then when we had to do the bit with the guy, it was "You're back up a cocoa, you idiot!" and stuff like that.
It's really, it's you could have been dead 2 seconds ago with this big massive engine hitting the brake man, and you're concerned about fecking hot chocolate. Who are you, the Cocoa Pot monkey?
Though they can be in a train crash and they'll be scolded the whole roasting raw cocoa.
Exactly.
I literally just pour it into a cup and I get 3rd-degree burns.
I literally carry it, and because of my ginger skin, it's dissolving.
So literally, you've just gone. Your mates have just gone head first into snow as well.
It's like cheers. You're just laying there and you're almost dead, but you stopped my cocoa. Yes. So Thomas, what do you think?
I personally think I don't think I would, to be fair, because like if you were someone who's trying to read the books, then fair enough, because you've already sort of got to know the characters. But I think if you're a first time reader, then it's like you're like, oh, I don't really get what's going on and stuff like that, so I have to go back and read these books. But I don't know. I just think people, if they were reading the books the first time round, I just do not think they would be getting into this, because it's like this is like the midway, essentially.
Yeah, I think this is
introductions.
I think this is good because this starts kind of built set up continuity. So it's a case of like, if you want to find out why this happened to Henry, read the first 4 books and you'll find out, kind of deal. Whereas if you were going to pass it kind of on its own, I would say, I would agree.
Where did this fall? I know it's out of order.
It's the 6th book, so we had 3 railway engines.
Yeah.
And then we
Thomas
had Thomas Tank Engine,
James the Red Engine.
Yep.
Tank Engine, Thomas again, and Troublesome Engines.
Got
And
it.
then it'd be Henry the
And then
Red
Henry.
Engine.
So you've had 5 books.
Yeah, so
to lead up to it for continuity, which is great, obviously, for getting all the fans back and everybody that was like interested and tying this up in a nice kind of little bow for it. But yeah,
because essentially these books would be every 2 years, essentially. So it'd be like, because like Troublesome Engines was in 1948, I think.
Wow.
So like this would be like 1950.
Yeah.
So
well, I think we're all in agreement. This one's in the knee column.
Aye.
That brings us back to all square, 3 apiece. Well, it's certainly interesting. We've had more yays than I expected from the normies. On the side of it, because I was like, okay, they're just gonna be like, oh, they're just kids books, but they've all been very fair.
Very open-minded.
This is why you keep asking me to come back, because I'm actually not normal. You know that. I am a normie, but
you're normal.
I can be swayed.
An abnormal normie.
Yeah.
People tell it like it is. Though.
Yeah.
But you're normal in the sense of like look what we've got. All trains from the 90s, all work Batman things, all collector's edition railway series books, more collector's edition railway series
70th anniversary books.
And a fan written Thomas movie, like so compared to that, like you're way on the normal spectrum.
I mean, here's a question that can instantly tell you if you're normie. Did you get called to your headmaster's office and requested to see a catchitis? Here's a question to make
The best part is I don't
Take a break,
start.
Best part is I don't edit this, so this will just be staying in.
Oh damn it! Okay. And action.
So,
a quick way to find out if you're a normie or not is to ask you the question: when you were a child, because of Thomas Tank Engine books and the Reverend W. Audrey and his vision, were you called to the principal's office and asked to see a child psychologist because of the stories you wrote about Thomas and being in bed with Michelangelo and Ringo Starr?
Yes.
Let me think about that one. No, I was called to the headmaster's office once, and I did get the cane. It hurt, but it was nothing to do with Thomas, and it wasn't my fault. But leave that for another time.
As I said in the book, but that's another story.
Absolutely.
So, my friends were 3 apiece. Henry the Green Engine falls into the nay column. That'll cue the backlash from all of the Thomas fandom.
We should probably, kind of paraphrase this by saying that we do love Henry.
Of course we love Henry.
All about Henry, he's a great engine.
Yeah,
it's just the selection this time round.
Yeah, it's just, we have to be honest, we have to go with our gut instincts, and that's what's happening. So, we'll be back with another episode, and we'll be going on to the 7th book, which is Toby the Tram Engine.
Yeah.
That is one where we will really have to try and put our bias aside, because Toby's fucking awesome.
And he's lovable.
He's awesome.
I had a school teacher that looked like Toby. Well, if he was a train, he would look like Toby. And I used to have such a crush on this school teacher. His name was Mr. McFadden, and he looked like kind of Toby. If Mr. McFadden was a train, he would have.
So essentially, you want to bang Toby.
Toby's a good looking engine. Let's just be fair.
That bit older, more experienced.
Susan's what? Right, I'm out.
No, I'm just wondering about the size of the funnel, but.
Toby's funnel's non-existent. Let's just say that.
There we go. Because he's a steam tram, so he doesn't have a funnel. Oh my goodness.
So Frank can be doing most of the work.
Yeah, but from the steam there comes off little sort of like
Tough.
leaflets, isn't there?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, you were saying the end of the podcast.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What
This is more for next time.
Oh, definitely. There'll be lots of stuff around that one, because everybody loves Toby. So we'll be looking at specifically the stories and how they shape up. So until next time, I have been Andrew Durning. This has been our fireman,
Thomas Lawrence.
Our special guest,
Mr. Frank McKim.
and our very important passenger.
Susan Sutton.
And let's see how many times you laugh at this bit. Until next time, keep on chugging.